Hello, 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 hello. Thank you so much for watching. This is Warren Redlick. I'm happy you're here. I wanted to talk about a bunch of things, but the start is Tesla introduced or announced, and it is now available for purchase, the standard models of Model Y and Model 3. So we're going to talk about that. That's a big chunk of this video. Then FSD version 14 is another chunk of this video. We're going to talk about Q4 expectations, and we've got more. And I just want to start off with there's a lot of reaction to this and a lot of dissatisfaction with this. I'll say, like, this is not what I expected. I was hoping for more. But I'll just say, while the more affordable trims may seem like a bomb, number one, FSD 14 is a bigger deal, and Q4 is going to surprise the whiners. I'm going to talk about all that. Hello, Frank. Loud and clear. Thank you, Mark. So let's dive into this. First of all, this is the standard Model 3. Now, by the way, I'll talk about this in a minute. These are only US numbers. I haven't seen them in any other country. So $37,000 for the standard rear-wheel drive Model 3. You get 321 miles of range, which if you go back not that long ago, the low-end Model 3 was like 270. So this is a pretty big improvement. 125 mile an hour top speed, 5.8 seconds, 0 to 60 doesn't blow your doors off, but it's not bad, right? So that's not terrible. And then the Model Y, same thing, just under $40,000, $40,000 really, right? 321 miles of range. You know, how long ago was it that standard range Model Y was, I don't know, 272, even, I think it was around 272 or something like that. You know, 6.8 seconds, 0 to 60 is not going to blow anybody away. That's a little weak, but you know, and there's a lot more detail here. And I want to mention there's the important thing to note here. I think the important thing to note here is Tesla's trying to bring prices down to make the car more affordable to others. And people want Tesla to make like a really inexpensive car. And of course, it would be a great car if they made a really expensive car. But I want you to understand the competition outside the United States. So this is a car I saw today, just a few hours ago. Maybe it's 8 hours ago. We were at a supermarket called Lotus, and downstairs, the supermarket's upstairs, downstairs, they were displaying a bunch of vehicles. This is the Jayco J5 EV, Omoda Jayco, I don't know. It's a Chinese EV. Decent size. It looks bigger than a BYD Atto 3. I think the interior volume is about the same. $18,500, right? So, you know, my Model Y long range launch edition was about $60,000 here in Thailand. This is a third of the price. How far down do you have to go in price in order to compete with Chinese EVs? You can't really do it. You can't do it and make profits. And they're probably losing money, right? But I don't see how you can buy a BYD Dolphin in China for under $10,000. They're like under $15,000 here. I think it was, yeah, it's about $15,000. We just passed by the BYD Dolphin, the BYD store the other day. We popped in. We didn't go inside, but they have BYD Dolphins. They're literally starting around $15,000. And that's a small city car. It's not terribly exciting, but it's got 5 seats. I've ridden in one. It's not bad. I've ridden in 2. One of my wife's friends has one. And you know, the range is significantly lower than a Model Y. And the DC charging is only, I think, 80 kilowatts instead of 250 kilowatts or 88 kilowatts. So it's like a third the rate of charge. You're not going to take this on road trips, maybe, or not. It's not going to be great on road trips. But, you know, this is what you're facing when you want to compete with the Chinese EVs. So Tesla has a real challenge, not in the US because Chinese EVs aren't sold in the US, but Chinese EVs are sold in Asia and they're sold in Europe, and there's more Teslas sold outside America than are sold inside America. I don't even know about Canada, if Canada's letting BYD in. So this is a summary from Tesla. Ultra low cost of ownership. We'll talk about that in a minute. Is it ultra low cost? I'm not sure this is quite ultra low cost. Extreme efficiency. They did get a lot of efficiency here. Minimal maintenance. Can drive itself with your active suit. FSD is available. I believe if you buy one, you get 1 month of free FSD. I believe autopilot has been removed. People are making a big deal out of that. I have autopilot in Thailand. It's terrible. I hate it. Almost never use it. autopilot stinks, so losing autopilot is no big deal. I don't think most people use autopilot much. BYD Seagull in China is the BYD Dolphin in Thailand, I think. What's included? Entertainment on a 15, so it's a 15-inch screen, integrated Grok AI. We don't get Grok in Thailand yet. Convenience, whatever, Tesla app. Heated first row seats. Note that the ventilated seats are gone and the heated seats in the second row are gone. So, not very exciting to me. And I was laughing about this because the stock was down the day it happened. The stock was down less than 5%. This was, I guess it was yesterday for you guys, this morning for me, right? So the stock plummeted all the way, 4.5%. The stock is down over the course of the stock fell a little bit more than that. But over the course of the week, what is the stock down? Like 8% or something like that. And a little quick disclosure, I did sell a small amount of stock, kind of caught it at the right moment, like 448, just to have some cash ready for towards the end of the year. There's a whole bunch of stuff I'm dealing with in Thailand, and my visa status is about to change for the better and all this stuff. So the timing of when I take money matters, because on the new visa, I'm tax exempt on foreign sourced income. It's a long story. I'm exempt in Thailand on foreign sourced income. So anyway, I don't think there's a big impact on the stock, and we're going to talk about that some more. So I joked about this. There's a lot of people joking about it. Omar is killing it. Omar Holmar's blog is killing it on his jokes. But my picture of what happened is Franz said, "Hey, Elon, I've got this really cool, smaller design ready to go." And Elon said, let's just delete the rear screen and put fabric on the ceiling. Like, there's still a glass roof, and they put fabric there. Apparently, the glass roof is opaque, as in you can't see through it. I don't know if that opaque glass is cheaper. They just don't want you to be able to cheat by cutting the fabric away. But so let's just delete the rear screen and put fabric on the ceiling. Franz says I can make that work, and Lars says, hey, 18-inch wheels would save a few bucks. It's kind of silly, but there's a lot of people cracking a lot of jokes about this. To be harsh on Tesla, for, I don't know, several months they've been saying more affordable models are coming, and these aren't really new models. This is just new trim on existing model. So I think that Tesla overstated the case. I think a couple days earlier they had that image of what looked like a GPU fan, turned out to be a wheel of the car, and made the big deal out of it. It's like, your big deal is you're releasing a less impressive car, but it's cheaper. I think I don't think people said they overhyped it. They didn't hype it that much, but they still overhyped it a little. I think it's underwhelming. It's underwhelming from a customer standpoint. For those of us who are like, I want Tesla to make some sort of cool car, it was a little underwhelming from the customer standpoint. Does it really matter in that sense? Auto steer has been removed. Yeah, I mean, there's some things missing. They removed some stuff. 14.4 says the standard Model Y is overpriced. People can already buy an Equinox for $6,000 less. Nissans will have their new Leaf for nearly $10,000 less. Those are crappy cars. That's not a comparison. You can't compare them to an Equinox. Equinox is crap. Nissan Leaf, I think it's the Aria. Those cars aren't special. Do they have 321 miles of range? Do they have the supercharger network? Sort of, maybe, kind of, sort of. I think they're using, Calvin says, why use an opaque glass roof? I think it's easier for them to continue manufacturing with a glass roof than to go with a metal roof. I think that's it. And I think they've really engineered the hell out of that glass roof, and it has a lot of benefits. I think people underestimate the benefits of the glass roof. Is the fabric for NVH or climate efficiency? I think the fabric is so you don't see you have a glass roof. I haven't heard it. Maybe Franz and Lars will do an interview, like we'll do a thing with Jay Leno where they can explain all this stuff, and Jay will be like, really? Really? You did that? Okay. So, good summary from Philip Engberg. Things removed. Panoramic glass roof. This is from the Model Y standard, not from the Model 3. Although I think it's similar changes. I believe the Model 3 still has a glass roof that's usable, that you can see through, though. 7 speakers. I assume there's some speakers, but not 7. You lose the subwoofer, or maybe you're losing 7 out of however many speakers there were. AM, FM radio, who cares? How many people use AM, FM radio? I'm sure they figured out that no one is using AM, FM radio. Ambient lighting, I think that's the cool, neon strip that I have it. I don't think it's a big deal. It looks cool, but okay. Closed center console. I've heard people saying they like the center console better. Power adjusted steering wheel. Oh, so it's a manual steering wheel. Who cares? How often do you adjust your steering wheel? It's easier I would rather have a manual adjusting steering wheel because the power adjustment's too slow and annoying. Suede decor. Yeah, okay, you got fabric interior instead of fake leather interior. You lose the HEPA filter. I think that's a big deal. The Model Y has a HEPA filter. I love the HEPA filter in my car. I was having like breathing problems when I was visiting family, staying in their house, and I slept in the Model Y, and the HEPA filter makes all the difference. Bioweapon defense mode goes with HEPA filter. Vegan leather seats, ventilated front seats. You can see a whole list of things that are removed. Power folding side view. Oh, they removed the power folding side view mirrors. That's kind of a rough one. All right, so there's a bunch of things gone. So, so I looked at a few countries. Looked at Thailand, China, the UK. I think I looked at at least one other European country. As far as I can tell, the new, more affordable Model 3 and Model Y were only in North America and only in the United States. Somebody said they're not even in Canada. I didn't see them in Thailand. I didn't see them in China. I didn't see them in the UK. I still think there's a chance that we see a smaller Model Y S in Asia and Europe. I don't think it makes sense. People are saying Tesla should make a smaller car for the US. People don't buy cars. If you go significantly smaller than Model 3 and Y, American consumers don't buy them. They just don't. You can believe what you want to believe, but Corolla-sized vehicles, Civic-sized vehicles, they just don't sell in high volume. Well, what percent? They sell like, maybe 500,000 units a year, and Tesla's going to get what, 20% market share? It doesn't. They're not even going to get 20% market share. Is it going to move the needle? No. I think we need a larger Model Y, and I think there's still hope that Tesla will introduce new models in the rest of the quarter. I don't think it's necessary, but I think it would be good. And I just want to mention this on the price thing. The average selling price of a car in the United States, new car in the United States, is $49,000. I'm going to show Amy talking about this in a minute. If you're complaining that the new Model 3 and Model Y aren't affordable enough, the new models are well below that $49,000 price point. The Model 3 is, what's the Model 3? The Model 3 is $37,000. That's $12,000 less. The Model Y is $10,000 less than, or $9,000 less than the average selling price of a car in America. These are more affordable. This is at the low, you're starting to get into the low end of the range of what people pay to buy a car. There's a high volume of cars that are sold below the average selling price. The lower you go, the large, until you get to really low, there's a substantial amount of volume there to be gained. So I was hoping for something more interesting, but I don't think this, and none of this moves the needle for me. Robotaxi is the big deal anyway. And Amy made this point, Amy SF Tahoe on our underscore FSSF Tahoe. She's a pilot. She's a longtime Tesla nerd, and I mean that in a positive way. To put the new lower cost Teslas in perspective, the average sales price of the car in the US is $49,900. Tesla's undercut that by $10,000. 49, I think it's 49,000, so it's $9,000, but she's close. These models will be affordable for so many, but they're distinctly beautiful Teslas and the safest possible cars. That's a critical point. You're not going to get a safer car anywhere near this price. FSD is available. You have the supercharger network. Teslas just work and don't break. I'm not as much of a cheerleader of this as Amy is, but I think this is true, and I think this is going to help sales. So Jeff Lutz has really been nailing it. Jeff Lutz says, for the 99.9999% of people that live outside of the Tesla X bubble, having Teslas available that cost $5,000 to $6,000 lower that still look just like the number 1 and number 2 selling EVs in the world is a good thing and will grow sales. You have to pass through the reality distortion field that lacks common sense to think otherwise. Brian, who is Jeremy Judkin's, I don't know, boyfriend, spouse, whatever, was saying a $40,000 car and a $45,000 car appeal to the same buyers or in the same price range. No, that's false. Brian is not living paycheck to paycheck. I'm not living paycheck to paycheck. And he mentioned like it's only a $70 a month payment difference in payment. That's a lot. And insurance is probably less because the price of the car is less, so the collision and comprehensive coverage ends up costing less on a car that has a lower price point. So maybe it's $80 a month. It's probably not $100 a month, but it's probably $80 a month that you're saving. A $5,000 price difference or $70 a month, whatever, $80 a month will sell some cars. Will it sell a lot of cars? Will it sell a little cars? I don't know. I think it sells a significant number of cars. Did I get, yeah. And then Jeff again, there's so many people on X. As he's put it, there's so many product positioning, design, and pricing experts for Tesla to choose from. There's so many people out there who think they know better than the Tesla team how Tesla should position their products, how they should design their products, and how they should price them. And obviously they should listen to Joe Schmo or whoever. I think I've got one or two of them in the slides here. So Randy Kirk says Model Y was under $40,000 2 weeks ago. Who would buy a standard now that didn't buy the premium then? And this is a point I think I made in a second in the next slide. New buyers enter the market every single day. One could even estimate that around 40,000 individuals will decide tomorrow they really do need a car, and it wasn't really on their mind until then. Accidents, major repairs, new situations in life moving. So if the TAM for crossover SUVs increases by 30%, and SUVs are about half of all sales in the US, we might be looking at 12,000 buyers per day more than before. Maybe it's half of that. So I can't comment on whether his numbers are accurate, but this is a critical point, and I addressed this with Weiner number one. Tesla stars. Tesla stars. No, it's the next one. Let me switch this up. I want to do this one first. Austin says, I see lots of cope around the new 3Y standards, suggesting lower prices are good because they open Tesla up to more buyers. Tell me who are these buyers that weren't interested in the premium rear-wheel drive Y at $37,500 2 weeks ago, right? Because before the end of September, you could have gotten a better vehicle for less money after the tax credit. Okay, the tax credit expired. We don't control that. The reality is that as Randy pointed out, he says, who are these buyers that weren't interested at $37,500 2 weeks ago? They're now interested at a standard Y at $40,000. At least half the people shopping for cars in December, if not nearly all of them, were not shopping in September. So the idea that there's customers who were thinking about buying a car in September and they didn't buy it, and now they're going to buy it in December. Because remember, the quarter Q4, I'm thinking about Q4 in the back of my head here. Q4 is December, ends in December, right? I'm not thinking about who's going to buy this week, but who's going to buy at the end of October? Who's going to buy in November? Who's going to buy in December? Are all those people who were shopping for cars in September and didn't buy because the price was too high, or they bought, I don't think that's rational. And the reality is the EV credit's gone. You got to live with it. So, the price of the Model 3 at like $37,000 is pretty good price. Maybe take out what the prices were in September when we had this cool tax credit that was expiring. We don't have that world anymore. We don't control that. Tesla Stars says, we have been promised for the past 18 months more affordable models, and we end up with dumbed down versions of the existing 3 and Y, not even quite more affordable than the much better rear-wheel drive models a week ago. They're more affordable. First of all, there are people who didn't qualify for the tax credit, so it's more affordable for them. And it's more affordable than all the alternatives now that the tax credit's over. Not even basic autopilot included. Again, basic autopilot stinks. I haven't, almost never use it. It has to be like on a super straight road without a lot of traffic. It's the only time I use it. And it's okay. It is when you're on a super straight road and there's nobody else on the road, it's pretty good. But that's pretty limited. A better priced compact car would have made a killing. Would have made a killing? What's the market analysis there? What's the car that it would take share from? The Corolla and Civic? How small are you going to go? How much share are you going to take from the Corolla? How loyal are Corolla buyers? Like RAV4 isn't significantly smaller than Model Y. Which vehicle, which segment? I've done this analysis. There really aren't a lot of cars significantly smaller than 3 at Y that sell in any significant volume. I think there's like a Subaru and maybe one Honda, maybe the Corolla. Other than that, and they don't sell in that high volume. They sell in high volume in other countries, not in the US. He says, Elon is clearly betting the house on autonomy. Yeah, that's correct. Um, Otherwise, these will just cannibalize the premium versions. No, there are people who, look, if you can afford to buy, like I have the long range Model Y with acceleration boost, the launch edition, right? If I have a choice between a Model Y that accelerates in 6.8 seconds or one that accelerates in 4.4 seconds, if I have a choice, ventilated seats are sweet. I live in Thailand, which is hot. Those ventilated seats are sweet. There's a lot of things in the upgraded car that if you can afford the upgraded car, you're getting the upgraded car. They're not cannibalizing the upgraded car. No, this is for people who can't afford to buy a quote premium Tesla. It allows people who can't afford to buy a Tesla to get in and buy a Tesla. That's the idea. William says, any comment on the technician with the game controller working the Kung Fu bot? I don't know. Elon said that was AI. I don't really care about that. 14.4 says there's zero excuse for not having lane keeping assist. You can get that on a Corolla and Civic. Okay, well then you just buy a more expensive car. You buy a more expensive Tesla. I think on BMW you probably have to pay a monthly fee to use that feature. I have no idea. Look, Tesla. You think that you know better about how to market, like as Jeff was saying. Apparently, 14.4 is an expert on market positioning, pricing, and so on. Like maybe the people at Tesla know what they're doing and they have a reason for doing it the way they did it. A key point I want to make, and this is going to be long, but JC Christopher drives his Tesla for Uber, and his purpose is, I don't think he's really doing it to make money, although he probably doesn't mind the money, but he's doing it to show people FSD. So he's constantly posting on X about how the experience is of running FSD and showing FSD to people. So he was asked his opinion, how it might impact people getting into Teslas. So he said rideshare passengers will likely notice no discernible difference about that which they care about between these new affordable models and the more premium versions we Tesla owners have today. Having done just over 1,200 Uber rides in the Houston and Austin areas over the past few months, the comments in question I get far and away most about the Model 3, which all of a sudden became premium in the past few hours, are, I love your car. This is my very first time in a Tesla. Wait a second. Holy shit, you're not driving the car. Right? I love geeking out on all the specs, just like the rest of you do, but the other 90% of the country is not in our bubble. 98% of the country. And even more so, the other 80% of the country living paycheck to paycheck. Couldn't care less about any of them. Yes, many of them will still not be able to get banked or financed, even for those more affordable models, but some will. And they'll give more rides to folks that have never been in a Tesla and so on and so on. Which goes to the question, I think these new affordable models will be great for rideshare, while the current concept of human-driven rideshare still exists as we know it. It will be a great way for more people to get experience at Tesla, many for the first time. I love what Tesla's doing here, both making us Tesla owners feel better, as well as continuing their more strategic and important journey into the working classes of our country, into the other 80 to 90% of our fellow Americans. So I thought JC made a really good point there. And I want to stress, not just for rideshare, but as a robotaxi. Ultimately, what's Tesla's goal for robotaxi? To drive down the cost per mile. If their cost of manufacturing these new vehicles is $5,000 less, then when they amortize these vehicles, it ends up being a lower cost per mile, and they're able to sell rides for less or make more profit per mile on the rides. So let me just take a break for a second and see what's in the chat. I'm sorry, I've been ignoring the chat for a while. I got a lot of content to get through here. Do I think an actual new compact model may be coming for Berlin and Shanghai? My theory is that Tesla may introduce, I'm not saying I'm correct, but my theory is Tesla may introduce a Model Y S in Asia and Europe, which I don't think would sell in the US. If they did a Model Y S, just the number I like to use is the current Model Y has about 2,100 liters of cargo space. I don't know what that is in cubic feet. Sorry. So the BYD Atto 3 is one of the best-selling small EVs, and I think it's one of the best-selling EVs in the world. And it's very, very hot selling in Thailand, and that has 1,300 cubic liters of interior space. That Jayco I showed you earlier has about 1,300 liters of cargo space. So if Tesla makes a smaller Model Y that goes down to 1,500 liters of cargo space or 1,600 liters of cargo space, that's significantly smaller than the current Model Y, still larger than the Atto 3 and the Jayco and other small EVs in Thailand and Asia, whatever. But then you can probably lower the price a bit more. and that might appeal to a lot of buyers in Asia. And if you make it a little narrower so it's easier to fit in a parking spot. I don't really have issues fitting in parking spots with the Model Y, but be a little easier. And there are countries where it might be an issue. A little bit easier on some narrow roads, and we do have some narrow roads in Thailand. There could be some advantages to that. So I do think there's hope for them to do a Model Y. They did a Model Y L in China. Doesn't a Model Y S make sense? I don't know. Do I think the Cybercab will fill the niche people are talking about, the ultra low cost small form? No, Cybercab is a robotaxi vehicle. It's not going to be sold to consumers. I don't think. I would buy a compact EV just to get from point A to point B, as long as it has FSD and all the good stuff you'd expect, like autopilot. Yeah, but once we have, what point I want to make here, and I don't think I have in the slides, is Tesla has a choice. We've got a $40 billion cash pile, roughly. I'm guessing at the end of Q3, we're going to have a $40 billion cash pile. Maybe 38, 39, whatever. What do we do with the cash? Do we invest substantially in developing a smaller or larger model of cars that we won't be selling in 2 years? Because once Robotaxi is live and the Robotaxi network is growing, every car we make, other than maybe SX and Cybertruck, every car we make will go into the Robotaxi network. We're not going to be selling cars. I think that the Chinese factory and the American factory, I don't know about Europe, because Europe might be a pain in the ass on Robotaxi. But every car, every 3 made in the US will go into Robotaxi service, and every Cybercab will go into Robotaxi service, and every 3 made in China will go into Robotaxi service in China and other countries that adopt Robotaxi. That allow Robotaxi. And the Chinese market and the US market are so huge that it will take Tesla 3 to 5 years to make enough cars to come close to meeting the demand for them. So would you invest your capital, billions of dollars developing new models, or would you invest billions of dollars making sure you can get this Robotaxi thing ready to go? And then I have a theory that Tesla, in order to develop the electricity generation that's needed for all these AI data centers that are coming online, not to mention powering EVs, I think Elon has a plan, and he replied to me on this when I mentioned it. I think Elon has a plan to generate massive solar. And I think the plan, just be clear, I think the plan is, I probably should do a video on this. The plan is massive ground solar. Rooftop solar is great, but it's hard to do. It's hard to get permits for the roofs. There's a lot of hurdles. You can just buy a large swath of land and get a utility or a government to approve it. Then you can just put massive amounts of ground solar. So you get 3-4 pieces of land that are like ridiculously large, and you do massive amounts of ground solar, and you use Optimus to put the solar panel, to set up the racks and set up the solar panels. Like, what are you going to do with, Tesla's going to make 50,000 Optimus and use them in-house. What are they going to do in-house with 50,000 or 100,000 Optimus bots? Ground solar installation is a fairly simple task that would dramatically lower the cost of deploying ground solar. You don't have to teach it to go on a roof. You teach it some fairly simple tasks, and you can get your ground solar done a hell of a lot quicker and a hell of a lot cheaper. So, but now you need capital. You need capital to buy the land. You need capital to get the solar panels, to get the racks, to get all the electrical infrastructure you're going to need for it. Do you want to invest in more megapack factories, or do you want to invest in that you're going to continue to make, or do you want to invest in more production of vehicles that are no longer going to be efficient for Robotaxi service in the not too distant future? Why not sell the Model Y long here in the US? I think that the Model Y L is not a perfect fit for the US because it's not big enough. I don't think it would sell in substantially larger volume than the Model Y. I don't think it's that much bigger, and I think the American market, I still think they might announce a Model Y XL in the United States. I don't know. Elon said they're not doing it. Maybe it's difficult to transition the factories over. I don't understand. It makes sense to me that they should sell the Model YL in the US, but I think something slightly wider, slightly longer, more usable space in the third row. Maybe the third row on the Model YL isn't really big enough for American customers. I don't know. Rich Palmasado says, I'd buy the hot hatch, just bought long real drive Model Y. Trump proportionally made in America tax rebate up to $10,000 could make Tesla super affordable. I haven't seen that. There has been talk about something Trump is doing that will make them more affordable again. We'll see that. What is the point of making a smaller vehicle for Europe if the US and China Robotaxi is the bigger market? Well, because Giga Berlin isn't doing anything. Unless you take the Giga Berlin vehicles and export them to wherever you're doing robo-taxis, which is possible. That is possible. Um, but I could see it there. I think, look, they just did the Model YL. Why did they do the Model YL? Because they could. In the same time frame, like Europe is going to be slow on robo-taxi. So a Model YS in Europe, some Asian countries will be slow, Model YS. And then Model YS will be lower cost. So your robo-taxi costs will be lower for Model YS than they are for Model Y. Ground solar Giga Nevada makes a lot of sense. I don't know how much land they have at Giga Nevada. They have a ton of land around Giga Austin, Giga Texas. They have a ton of land. I think they might do something in Mississippi near Nashville where XAI's data centers are. I think that would make sense. What did I think of the Democrat proposal to tax robot workers? I don't think much of any Democrat proposal, and I haven't seen it. He bought a utility in Tennessee, did he? I don't know about that. I have to look at that. Looking at the rates for these new models, what Elon said about focus on the monthly being affordable, I think Tesla's anticipating Trump made in America rebate. I don't know if Tesla's anticipating it. They're doing the best they can with whatever they've got. Mark Plot says cannibalize Model X, make a Model Y XL. Yeah, I mean Model Y X and Model X and Model S sell in such low volume, but I think the problem is they don't have anything better to do with those. It would be too difficult to transition those lines into something useful, and you might as well, if you're going to make new vehicles, make them somewhere else because California is such a pit for business. They had months during refresh to prep the Y line for Model YL. I'm not going to argue with you. I think they made a decision that Model YL wouldn't sell that many vehicles in the US, and I think they might be right. Is there any truth to Ford GM selling them themselves to continue $7,500 discount credit? I haven't heard that one. No, I don't know. Okay, so let's follow up. Q4. I wanted to talk about Q4. So I did a poll, which is still pending, but Tesla's Q3 deliveries were just under 500,000 vehicles. And I did a poll, and a lot of people think it's going to be lower. I think it's going to be higher. I'll tell you why in a second. I think the 500,000 or more is likely. Number one, Model YL only sold in September. There were only Model YL deliveries in September in China. So you have 3 more months of adding Model YL deliveries in China on top of Model Y regular deliveries and Model 3 regular deliveries. So that's going to boost things. I think that's a significant jump. I think the changeover to this lower cost trim, we don't know if this is going to be done in Asia. We don't know if it's going to be done in Europe. The tax credit disappearing doesn't happen in other countries besides the United States. So we don't know what else they're going to do in Asia. My hunch is they're going to do something else to sell more cars in Q4. But I think leave out the United States. I think they sell more cars in the United States than they did in Q3 because the lower cost models will sell in decent volume. And I think Q4 is traditionally a strong quarter in the United States. It's not necessarily a strong quarter in other countries, but it's a strong quarter in the United States. So if there's a lot of demand for new cars in Q4 and Model 3 is $37,000 and Model Y is $40,000 and the average selling price of a car in the United States is $49,000, I think a lot of people might buy them. And a lot of people might see the low price, come in and say, oh, this is cool, but for only like a little bit more money, I can get these other features. Okay, let me get the other features. So the low price might bring more people into the Tesla store to look and shop. Be Nice says, I love the Model S. Hope it's still in production. I'm ready to buy. Probably 5-ish years. Whenever my Honda turns. Ooh, 5 years? I don't think they're going to be making Model S in 5 years. That seems unlikely. And Model S is not... if I were you, I would get a Model 3 Performance or get a Model 3 Long Range over a Model S. I think the Model 3 and the Model Y are better made vehicles. They're better engineered vehicles. Not that the Model S is a great car. Model S has the air suspension, which is nice. But, in 5 years, can you pick up a 2025 Model S for a lot less money? Yeah, probably. Unless it has FSD and Tesla's decided to put it in its fleet. I don't know that you're going to be buying a car in 5 years. I think you might be shifting to robo-taxi life in 5 years. I made a bundle on Tesla stock last year, bought a used Model Y. Okay. Would you buy a rear-wheel drive Model S 60 kilowatt hours? Sell the self and lease out is kind of complicated. I would just say take a look at what Tesla has in inventory for 2022 Model S's, and the prices might be pretty good. Is there any means by which Tesla could recover their loss in sales in Germany, or is that a lost market? I'm not sure the loss in sales in Germany is that significant, and Europe's a big place, and Tesla's doing okay across most of Europe. Um, Colossus 2 Energy Hub is actually right across the border in Mississippi because Tennessee doesn't have the grid capacity. I don't think that means they bought the utility. EV rebates are also ending in Singapore. Singapore is a tiny market. Should Tesla sell standard Model SX rear-wheel drive with 69 kilowatt hour battery? Standard. I don't think Model S and X move any needles. That I don't think they waste any time with that. Guessing the used models are cheap in one first quarter because some are repos from fourth quarter sales. Tesla is still cell constrained. Berlin has a lot of unused capacity. A smaller Tesla makes perfect sense for Europe. Why else not go into production? I don't know. We don't know all the details. I mean, I think Berlin. I honestly sometimes wonder if Berlin was a mistake. Okay. So the other poll I did was to think about this question about how important are vehicle sales going forward for the future of Tesla. So I did this poll, and I feel like people got this one right. Which will generate more revenue for Tesla in 2028? Car sales to consumers, most people get it. It's not car sales to consumers. Tesla's going to be delivered every vehicle that Tesla makes, with some exceptions, like SX, Roadster, whatever, maybe Cybertruck, will be going into the robotaxi network. So a small volume of Tesla cars will be sold to consumers, and most vehicles will go in the robotaxi network. But Megapack is growing like crazy. I think solar's going to grow like crazy. And then Powerwall is growing. So I think you're going to see more revenue from energy generation and storage. AI inference cloud, maybe 2028 is a little early for that, but I think Tesla may be offering AI inference cloud services by 2028. I don't think that's going to surpass energy generation and storage that year, but I think that actually is a fairly large future business. Most likely for Q1 standard range 3. Yeah, I think there's a good chance that that the standard range vehicles will go down in price. Maybe December they'll price them lower to move cars. We'll see what happens there. Um, Tax credit confusion, plug-in hybrids dying, other manufacturers pulling back from EV, cheaper Model 3Y, Model YL in China should help Q4 sales. Exactly. I think they should have put the Berlin factory just 50 kilometers further east, just over the border in Poland. I think Poland would have been better, maybe. I don't know enough. Near-term outlook for the stock post the earnings report, and then in November post the shareholder meeting. I don't really make short-term stock price predictions. Stock goes up, stock goes down. The real issue is when do they? We're going to be talking about FSD in a minute. When did they pull? That's a big chunk of this video is going to be FSD. When did they pull the safety driver or the safety monitor out of the cars? When did they start expanding the robo-taxi network and having a lot more vehicles and a lot more jurisdictions? That's the big deal. Declan says, "Hey Warren, can Tesla realistically get this cost of Cybertruck down enough to sell in meaningful volume?" I think the answer is pretty clearly no on that. I don't think there's much prospect of getting the cost of Cybertruck down low enough to sell in volume. I think it was a fun experiment and didn't sell enough. And you'd have to make it in high enough volume, and then to get your costs down, and then not enough buyers. It just doesn't work. It was a good try. If the Berlin factory runs at half speed, wouldn't that be a good place to make Optimus for Europe? I don't know that they're going to make Optimus in Europe, because there was an interview with Mark Andreessen, and he said that 80% of what robots are going to do is already illegal in Europe. I don't have a lot of hope for Europe. I think Europe is I want to hope for Europe, but everything I see about Europe, I think Europe is in deep trouble. So I don't know that the big markets to worry about are North America and China. Southeast Asia is another important market. Japan maybe. Who do you think will buy Optimus robot outside of Tesla if every high cap company is working on their own robot project? No, Tesla's robot is going to be better than all the other robots. It's going to be lower cost to manufacture, and it's going to do more. All right, you have your own robot, but if it doesn't do what you need it to do, and Optimus does, you're going to get Optimus. Tesla is racing to. I just watched a video about Chinese technology, and they're showing all these robots, and they don't have the hands, and they don't have the AI. The AI is huge. Tesla is clearly on the path of, let's build more AI data centers. Let's get better chips. Let's get, more sophisticated hardware. You'll see videos. Show me a video of whatever that. What was the robot in China that we just saw? Show me, it was like a small robot. Show me a video of that thing using its hands for something useful. Good luck. Um, Standard Model 3 wire robotaxi capable, of course. Standard Model Y is ideal for an Uber driver. Yeah, I would say standard Model 3 and Y are ideal for Uber drivers, and they're ideal for robotaxis. Model Y might be a little bit better because it's easier to get in and out. Model 3 might be a little bit better because it's probably lower cost per mile. If the new Model 3 and Model Y standards made in Giga Shanghai, how much cheaper could they sell it for? I believe the price of the Model 3 is about 12% lower. So 260,000 Chinese yuan, you take 12% off, you're taking off 30,000 won, so you're down to 230,000 won. I don't know. Europe needs America party. Europe needs Doge. Europe needs whatever. Europe is a land where you need a study and a permission slip to build a doghouse. Exactly. And that's actually my hometown too. So the other thing is Tesla Sexy Shorts merchandise did not outpull car sales to customers. So that's a disappointment. I think Tesla Sexy Shorts might really take off in the near future. And just a little fun thing before we get into FSD. I did a video a couple days ago where I argued that Tesla AI will control Optimus, not Grok. A lot of people think Grok is going to control Optimus. Grok is going to be the brain of Optimus. Robert Scoble was talking about it. And I just have a simple question for anybody who thinks that. If somebody yells at Optimus, duck, because something is flying at its head, how quickly do you want it to respond? If you've used Grok, if you use ChatGPT, if you use Gemini, would that response time be satisfactory to respond to the prompt duck? No. You want millisecond latency AI. You want the AI to respond very quickly, as quickly as a human. And LLMs do not. So, for the vast majority of the things that Optimus is going to do, at least for the next 5 years, millisecond latency decision making is going to be critical, and LLMs don't do that. Large language models, whether it's Grok or ChatGPT or Claude or Gemini, they don't make millisecond latency decisions. They're not close to that. They're 1 to 3 seconds, 1 to 5 seconds, sometimes much longer. I think at their fastest, they're 1 to 3 seconds. Gemini has some fast moments for me, but still, not FSD is making decisions in 10 milliseconds. It's 100 times as fast. Cybertruck was part of a process to develop the next generation technologies. Well, Cybertruck was important for 48-volt wiring, for one thing. I think there's some other technology in Cybertruck that matters. We'll see. And sometimes it's just like the engineers had fun. They did something interesting. You gave your engineers something exciting to do. It's definitely a branding. It's a big branding positive. They're selling it in some other countries now. I'd love to see. It would sell really well here in Thailand. I mean, not super well because it's expensive and large, a little larger than maybe the market would like. But I think it would sell like. You guys might not know this. Thailand is like the second largest pickup truck market in the world. I think Thai people would go crazy for Cybertruck. I mean, some would hate it, and it's expensive, but some would love. I just looked at what did we look at? Ford Ranger. The cheap Ford Ranger was like 800,000. Was it 800,000 baht? So that's like less than $25,000. That's about $25,000, $27,000. So Cybertruck selling here. If Trump was able to negotiate away the Thai tariffs and they were able to sell the Cybertruck here for $75,000, $80,000, it would still be very expensive compared to a lot. But they would sell some. If Optimus hears duck, it might say it can't cook a duck yet. I think Optimus needs some sort of animation in the faceplate to indicate what it's doing or who it's responding to. There's all kinds of things we'll see with. Who knows what they're going to come up with that. Okay, so let's move on to FSD. So Tesla announced FSD supervised v14.1 now rolling out. A bunch of our favorite people on X and YouTube driving it. Highlights include arrival options. You can now select where FSD supervised should park at the end of your trip: the parking lot, on the street, driveway, parking garage, or curbside. Nice feature. Driver profile sloth. If you want the car to drive slower and more relaxed, you can choose sloth mode, which is even slower and more conservative than chill mode. And you should notice overall improvements in smoothness, and confidence. I have a lot more on this. Um, let's just quick here. Really hope 2026 will be a better year for Tesla versus 2025. This year's been so frustrating. Really? I'm having a lot of fun. New Model Y is awesome. New Model 3 is awesome. They updated Model S and Model X, which are okay. Cybertruck started selling in more volume. FSD's getting better. Optimus is coming along. When you really look close at the other robots that people are talking about, and you appreciate the complexity of the hand on Optimus, and you appreciate the complexity of the sophistication of the AI that they are developing, I'm really excited about Tesla. How well does BYD Shark sell in Thailand? It doesn't sell by that name. I think you might mean the Seal, which is the Model 3 clone. I think it sells less than the Atto 3. It probably sells competitively in volume with the Model 3. I don't know Shark. They don't use the same names here that they use in China. So the seagull in China is the dolphin here. Who knows how they do that? But there is no BYD Shark here. There's the Sea Lion 7, which is the sort of Model Y competitor that I think is selling pretty well, actually. The Atto 3 is the small, not Model Y competitor, the Model Y S competitor, maybe, that sells very, very well. The Dolphin sells very, very well. They're very inexpensive. Um, I'm tempted to buy a Atto 3 or Sea Lion 7 as a second vehicle or something. FSD v14 not yet unsupervised. No, of course it's not unsupervised yet. FSD 14 took away the ability to set a maximum speed, which I think is a poor choice. I didn't capture it, but I think it was Phil Duan, one of the Tesla AI engineers posted why they did it. They said that it's not actually a good choice, and he had reason why, and the car makes better decisions. V14 is now the worst FSD will ever be. That's true. How are you feeling, Mark Plot? Oh yeah, good question. Hi, Mark. Thank you, Mark, for the God bless you. Got a free premium upgrade to my Model Y Standard. Interesting. BYD selling good worldwide, also in my country, Israel. Yeah, I think BYD does pretty well. I think fundamentally Teslas are significantly better cars in so many ways. Like the BYD Atto 3 charges at 1/3 the speed of the Model Y. That has much less range, much less interior space. I'm sure the Teslas are much safer cars in crashes. Calvin says, I've been driving the speed limit ever since getting a car with a digital speedometer and adaptive cruise control, sloth mode. Yeah. Lance says, everyone, thanks for what I do. Please do not lose focus on robotaxi rolling out. More cars, more robots. Yeah, I mean, the big thing is, we're going to talk about this in a minute, but as V14 cruises along, it's going to be better. Fred would buy the Cybercab car just for my use. Very few people would buy... Two-seat cars do not sell in volume. It's nice that you say you would buy one, but very few people buy a two-seat car when you can buy a car with 5 seats for the same price or similar price. Have you seen the V14 on Infinite Loop by AI Driver? No, I haven't. Ice says Model YL with 6 passengers would be great for Vegas Tunnel to transport people to and from airports. You're going to see the vast majority of rides in the Vegas Tunnel are one person, 1 or 2 people. They don't have the boring company tunnel system is going to be primarily single passenger vehicles. As in one person in the vehicle. Eventually my pod car, if anybody follows me on that. I need an ability to tell FSD not to exceed a speed limit by more than a set amount, like 5 to 7 miles per hour. Then don't drive FSD. If Tesla doesn't do what you want, then buy another car. I'm sorry that you need it. If you need it, get something else. Get a car that does what you want. Phil says we're still expecting the most epic demo ever by year end. I think the most epic demo is either going to be Optimus for version 3 or Roadster. Has even ever talked about what Cybercab will be sold to public businesses? He hasn't talked about it. I think that there will be markets where the Tesla is not allowed to run its own robotaxi fleet and they will have to partner with someone. That's just my general sense of how countries work. So I think Tesla released, and maybe even from an antitrust perspective in the United States and Europe. Do you think Tesla releasing cheaper models is related to tax credits in the US or unrelated? I definitely think it's related to the expiration of the tax credit. Bought my first electric motorbike on somebody's in Thailand. Think I'm going to start supplying them across Thailand. I don't know about Samui, but I don't trust being on a motorcycle or a scooter or anything anywhere in Thailand, and wouldn't trust it in the United States either. It's too dangerous. It's just very dangerous. I can't tell you how many accident videos I've seen. Traffic fatality rate in Thailand is one of the highest in the world. Don't ride a motorcycle. Don't ride a scooter. Don't ride a bicycle. Be in a car. Much, much safer. Okay, so Elon says many more self-driving V14 improvements still to come, but wide rollout of V14.1 has begun. 14.2 rolls out in a few weeks. Remember Elon time? And then 14.3 a few weeks later, depending on safety testing. There's so much to change. They were carefully confirming each one. I think we'll be lucky to get 14.3 hopefully by the end of the year. I think it'd be crazy optimistic to think we would get that by the end of November. So maybe in December we see V14.3. Sawyer talks about 2 police cars come up. The car pulled over to let the police cars pass. This is, I think, a relatively new feature or working much better feature in FSD and V14. Elon says Tesla AI will feel increasingly sentient. He's been using that word a lot. He uses it again in the next post. Great work by. So Zach, I'm going to show you some of Zach's drives, not the video, but Zach's drives. And Elon says great work by the Tesla AI teams. Very much more to come. By 14.3, your car will feel like it is sentient. There have been moments already when somebody's going through a drive-through and the car stops when it's supposed to, and then moves when it's supposed to. Going through a toll booth, it stops, and the driver's like, "How does it know?" And Ashok said, "Well, the side camera picks up whatever this transaction, and it's able to tell because it's developing this is the thing people don't get. FSD and the future AI for Optimus are developing an understanding of the real world. How do you know when to go in a toll booth? How do you know when to go in a drive-through? It's developing the same level of understanding of the real world that you and I have. It's not there yet, but it's making progress, and so it's gradually picking up more and more of these things. If we see a Gen 3 Optimus demo, I bet it's going to be wearing gloves and sleeves. I don't know. Maybe it's going to do the dance that the guy did in the original Optimus presentation. California has super strict ride-hailing rules regarding driver seat supervision and robo-taxis. As soon as they remove the driver, robo-taxi will take off. Agreed. I think they have to get enough miles and meet certain standards for the regulators in California to say yes. Probably less difficult in Texas, but they'll take their time and be careful. Right, new standard models not available in Canada yet. I think they're only available in the U.S. Hospitals and workers call motorcycles donor cycles. Yep. Be nice says be nice. He responded to his typical flippant response when he could not defend an action by Tesla, so I called it out. What did I miss? What did 14.4 say? I miss whatever he said. I don't see it. I don't know. Maybe somebody deleted it. I don't know what the flippant response was. Okay. Big events with thousands of visitors leaving at the same time would be more efficient transporting 6 at a time. Yeah, of course, there's examples where you're going to have multiple people in vehicles, but the vast majority of Uber rides and Lyft rides and taxi rides are one passenger. That's the data. And if you go, like, it's 80% are one passenger and 90% are 2 passengers, not 2 or 1 passenger. So you're talking about very small, handle the big stuff first. Any news on fast-track federal autonomy framework that competes with China? Quiet on that front. Mark Plot says standard Model 3 not for sale in California or MZ. What's MZ? Mexico? Oh, Canada and Mexico, right. Any news on fast-track federal autonomy framework that competes with China? No, I would not expect to see much progress on that from any government. 14.4, when I posted that FSC breaking the law by speeding is not going to work with law enforcement. Yeah, well, okay. It's not a flippant answer. If FSD isn't doing what you want, this is not a flippant answer. If Tesla doesn't provide what you want, buy another car. Don't upgrade to FSD 14. Keep FSD 13 if that's what you need. It's not a flippant answer. I don't get to make decisions for Tesla. You don't get to make decisions for Tesla. If they're not selling you what you want, buy something else. FSD drive-through should be a button to indicate you want to go through the drive-through. I believe that is an option. I don't know how that works exactly. I think that's in the videos that people did. Would love to hear an update on 4680 and why not structural battery pack anymore. Oh, I don't think structural battery pack is necessarily gone. It's just, when. And 4680, I believe that they're going to be building 4680 production in Nevada to go along with semi, and I think it's going to be in semi. JB Straubel has a ground solar project. I haven't seen that. I'll have to look for that. Okay, so I wanted to move on to Ashok. Ashok is the head, arguably at least, of Tesla's AI team. He says FSD 14.1, the first in the V14 series, has officially started rolling out to customers. Many follow-up releases with significant improvements are in the works. These should ship through the rest of this year. Enjoy and looking forward to feedback. Looking forward. So there's a theory that the flywheel is going to move faster on V14. There's a couple people talking about that. I don't know how much I believe that. I want to believe it. We'll see. Lawyer crying about Waymo allowed to break laws. I don't care. Farzad says he wants FSD v14 on Cybertruck. Elon says the all-wheel steering of Cybertruck requires more autopilot training. Now, I wanted to turn to Zach. This is Zach, Black Model 3. I've met Zach. He's a young guy. He's been driving Teslas like crazy since they first came out. He's a super Tesla fan, super Tesla lover, and super source of information. So he did a 24-hour, I think he probably drove for 24 hours straight, probably with supercharging as a brake. It's really that good. The addition of parking garages and arrival settings is huge, a way bigger deal than many realize, and makes using FSD that much cooler. Now all your driving can be done on FSD from end to end. I've been driving and filming almost nonstop since 1 a.m. yesterday through the whole night with a short nap from 6 to 9 a.m. So I've had some good seat time with V14. I can share my opinions. I put it through its paces through school zones, unprotected left turns, highways, city streets, rush hour, and more. It is yielded and pulled over right for ambulances and police cars every single time. Speed control and new profiles are great. Hardy mode definitely is quicker than before, while sloth mode is perfect for those who want to drive slower, and it's very stable, very, very stable. Super noticeable contrast in profiles and driving habits. Pulling into superchargers and there's two screens here. Pulling into superchargers and parking spots is so sick. It backs in quickly and perfectly straight. Really well tuned. It parks better and faster than most humans. I'm very sympathetic to that because, as my wife would tell you, I don't feel like I'm parking very well right now. FSD 14 finally obeys school zone speeds. When it will be the best change. Okay, a little bit more here. I'd love to see an improvement. Let me just make this bigger so I can read it. I'd love to see an improvement with reducing some harsh braking. I've seen others encounter it, but I've only seen it on a couple of drives. Would also love for when the car pulls in a busy and full parking garage for the car to explore more areas to find a parking spot before looping again. Interesting. I can relate to that. I park in a lot of crowded parking lots. In Thailand, the places I park, parking lots can be, it's like, I really want to go over there. The car might not do that. The comfort of this build is definitely pretty good for me. I'm not seeing any jerkiness or lane pulling. Great lane selection, excellent speed control. Tried it through in and outs drive-through. The car followed the lead cars perfectly. Let me order with the person outside. Then continued, but stopped short of the payment pickup window by a couple of feet, but super minor. It's not technically supposed to do drive-throughs yet, so this is a huge win already. I really like standard mode on the highway, perfect speed and stays in the lane without many lane changes, which is awesome for a longer drive on a more open road. I've noticed on a couple no right on reds, the car obeys it well and proceeds on green in an area previously inconsistent with V13, so that's a nice improvement. I've also noticed the car not hesitating as much approaching a turning green arrow. Stop sign behavior is great, gradual braking and smooth acceleration expected. Overall, exactly what to expect and follows speed limits great. It makes decisions so quick and human-like. Some may say sentient. Sentient is like conscious. Like, looking at the chat here. If FSD 14, okay. Drove an ambulance in college, sold all 3 of my motorcycles. Yeah. My late mom drove in sloth mode. Okay, your mom drove too slow and she got arrested. He got pulled over. I saw a video about it some weeks ago. I think maybe Brian White visited the site where batteries with some life left are recycled and connected together into solar grid and sensors. Oh, you're probably talking about the ground solar for JB. FSD 13 works fine on Cybertrucks. I'm not sure what the steering would be an issue on 14. It's just more complicated. They got to train for it. Whole Mars parked in multi-level lot with FSD v14. I was wondering about that. Okay, so, and thank you, Gort, for your comment. Can't wait for an autonomous semi. That's going to be good too. Now, Phil, you can see Elon reposted this. So that's why I'm covering this. Phil is often offers content that Elon reposts. So, early version 14 thoughts. We have convergence By convergence, I mean version 14 represents the convergence release where follow-on point releases will yield effectively the solution to the problem, namely autonomous driving. It's clear. Tesla's nailing many last mile use case, CG parking, gates, etc. Yeah, gates is another one that I used to have problems with FSD. It just couldn't do gates. This is a couple of years ago now. This indicates to me we are solid on number one. You don't chase the feature tail without the core being. So in other words, the core of the driving is so good that now they're pursuing these edge case scenarios that have been annoying a lot of us for a long time. Robotaxi will scale out on version 14 release. This means removal of the safety rider. When precisely this happens is largely immaterial, could be for 14.3. Version 14 represents a multi-mode release. It's unsupervised gold mode for Robotaxi and supervised blue mode for customer. It's likely version 14 can be dynamically moded from supervised to unsupervised, as in maybe Tesla can change it. Be ready for a release velocity similar to V13 releases as the main release is now out. The base has been established that they will build on. So I think, I don't know. I don't know how important that is. But so let's see what we have in the chat. USA DOT is blocking autopilot and FSD and Tesla Semi. It's too early for FSD and Tesla Semi. You have to have a large volume of vehicles in order to train. You won't see FSD and like we're going to be next year. Tesla will make roughly 50,000 semis. Hopefully, probably not even that many. You're going to need 100,000 semis or more to even begin to train FSD to be able to handle driving a semi. Maybe 250,000. Who knows? We're going to need a lot of data. It's a few years away before FSD is meaningfully useful in Tesla Semi. Chuck Cook's experience concerned me. What I saw of Chuck Cook was very positive, but maybe he has something more recent. If you've had time, can you update on your projects, Podcar, workspace, etc.? Yeah, this is a good time to do that. So the cafe and co-working space. This is for those who don't know, my wife is going to be opening a cafe and co-working space. I'm not working there. I am customer number one. So the cafe will be downstairs. My mother-in-law will have a part of her dressmaking business on the ground floor. So it's called Casual Dress Co-working Cafe. So there'll be dresses on display, and she may be doing some work on that side. It'll be like 3 small tables with 2 chairs each, and my wife will make coffee and tea, and I'm gonna request protein drinks. We're gonna have some protein. I call it protein mocha. Mocha. They say mocha in Thailand instead of mocha. Cafe instead of cafe instead of coffee. So that's the first floor. Second and third floor will be the co-working space. Second floor will have a sort of like a meeting area, event space. Then there'll be just a regular room. Third floor, one side will be a quiet room, and the front side with a view of the mountains will be, it's already a fitness room. The bike and treadmill aren't there yet, but I'm already using it for working out myself. It's a nice view of the mountains, functional trainer, some adjustable dumbbells, a bench, a sitting bench, no barbells, and I've got dip stands and a weighted vest now, and we're gonna have a exercise bike and treadmill, and it's not in an area that's very popular with foreigners. I'm hoping we can attract some Thai people to join the co-working space, and my guess is we're gonna lose money, but we won't lose that much. The rent is like $600 a month for the building. The cost is low. So if I lose $20,000 over a couple of years, no big deal. Hopefully we make some of that back, and maybe we end up being profitable after a couple of years. And then the pod car, I've advertised, and I'm going to continue advertising and push harder on it to hire basically a young Thai engineer or somebody who likes to build things. I'm advertising in Thai on Facebook, and I'm going to advertise on a website called JobsDB, and just to try to get a prototype built. YouTube is getting out of. I have the commercial setting to be conservative, which means fewer commercials, but every once in a while, I'm sure they pop up. They need money for Q4 earnings. There are commercials. I think if you are not a premium YouTube member, you get commercials during the live stream. There shouldn't be commercials if you're on premium. Wow. Yeah, if you have premium, there's no commercials. Yeah. Okay. So I think I answered. And then the other project is my Wife and I are hoping to have children, and we're making progress, but I'm not going to give you more detail than that. No one's pregnant, but we're making progress. I believe that she will be pregnant either by the end of this year or early next year. We'll see how it goes. Sell Karom Karok in the store. I don't know what Karom Karok is. We're going to sell, coffee, latte, espresso, Americano, latte. The common coffee drinks in Thailand are espresso, latte, mocha, Americano, and then there'll be Thai tea, and I think she loves matcha, so there'll be some matcha green tea type of thing. And then I'm gonna, we'll have like a protein mocha and maybe a vanilla protein drink, because you have the gym upstairs, right? And I drink protein drinks, so I stopped YouTube Premium, and I'm thinking about. I've been watching more YouTube. I'm thinking I need to start YouTube Premium again. Rivian recently announced they would be incorporating LiDAR. Also off topic, Aptera is going with a direct listing over an IPO. Aptera is going to IPO? Oh, I'm going to have to go look at that. Thank you. I think Rivian, people were saying, oh, this standard Model Y isn't as good as the Rivian R2. Well, the Rivian R2 doesn't exist yet. I don't think Rivian's going to make more than 50,000 units a year, so it doesn't meaningfully compete with Tesla. That Rivian isn't going to be selling in other countries, so it's sort of like cute. And how much money is Rivian going to lose a car in this version? Are they only going to lose $50,000 a car instead of $250,000 a car? At some point, you got to make money on the cars. Thank you, Rob. Step 1 FSD, step 2 Optimus, step 3 Unify. Optimus drives for you, and Optimus. Elon did say that Optimus could conceivably drive, but that's not the point. Optimus would not drive as well as the car can drive itself. The latency, the additional cameras, it doesn't make sense. Step 5 people plug into Matrix Soup Grok Simulated Universe. Are you sure that hasn't already happened? Rivian has. Look, I love RJ Screens. Thank you, Sal L. Can I buy 1 to 10 robo-taxis and make $100,000, $300,000 a year, or can robo-taxi owners make weekly pay on the Tesla robo-taxi network? Love to make $30 million. So the expectation of most of us for a long time has been you buy a Model Y, let's say, you buy a Model 3. I don't know if they're going to sell cybercabs to people like us, but you buy a Model 3 or Model Y and they open up the robo-taxi network so we can put our vehicles in it. Ashok said they haven't yet developed a process, and they would need to develop a process where they make sure your vehicle is appropriate for being in the robo-taxi network. Like, what if you have a clunker? What if your car looks like crap? What if your car is not functioning well? They want to make sure that the cars in the robo-taxi network meet the robo-taxi network standards. So I think they're going to have a Tesla-owned robo-taxi network for a while, and then eventually they will figure out a system to incorporate our cars in the network if we want to put them in. About your wife's shop, how is water quality? Everyone in Thailand drinks bottled water. Everything will be bottled water. We will not use tap water for anything. We might use it for cleaning dishes or something like that. We just got a water filter at our house for the water we use for the sink and for showering, but that doesn't make the water drinkable. Polestar lost $40,000 each car in the U.S. Trick to saving money at the end of every year: start canceling your streaming service, and they will usually give you a deal. I don't know if YouTube does that. Not watching live. I use autopilot all the time in the UK. It's brilliant, but not perfect. It's one of the main reasons for having the car. Autopilot is good? I don't know. My experience with autopilot in Thailand has been terrible. Kenton says, back to 3&Y, isn't there a provision in the Big Beautiful Bill that allows up to $10,000 introduction for cars assembled in the U.S.? This should help Tesla replace the EV tax credit. I haven't seen that. I've seen people talking about it, and I haven't researched that one yet, so I'm going to have to confess, I think I know a lot about Tesla, but that's one I missed. Tesla just popped green on the day. Good work, Warren. Yeah, I'm driving up the stock by doing this live stream, I'm sure. I will send so apparently Tesla stock is up today, at least for a moment. I will send my car out. My theory about it is if you own a car, a Tesla, and it's your only car, then you would drive to work in the morning and press the go make me money button, and the car goes out and takes rides and does rides. And then at 5 o'clock, it comes and picks you up, takes you home. And then you send it out to go make more money. Would you run your vehicle? If you buy a fleet of them, then you run them all as robo-taxis. But I think Model 3 entry model will sell more than Model Y because the outer design is the same. People won't know that you're poor. I think Model 3 will. So I think SUVs just sell more volume than sedans. I don't know. I think that in today's markets, SUVs are just selling better. Model Y still looks cool. I don't think most people won't know that it's not an ordinary premium Model Y. Most people won't be able to tell. Yeah, I wish I could drive Tesla price for sure. I think that's hilarious. Okay, it is past my bedtime. It is after 10 p.m. here in Thailand, and I try to go to bed at 10 o'clock. I don't succeed, but I try. And I have to, after this, I have to do some administrative things like download the video from YouTube and then post it on X and all that stuff. The concern for single car owners would insurance costs be allowed to use it in robo-taxi, and some lenders may not permit such use. Yeah, but that's something that Uber already has. It already exists for Uber, so I don't think that would change for robo-taxi. So thanks everybody so much for watching. Thank you to Mark and Jim for monitoring the chat, moderating the chat, whatever. Thanks to everybody for watching, and I got to get ready for bed. Good night, everybody. Bye bye.